Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Rob Masiello. I'm the co-founder of Arcade.xyz. It's an NFT lending protocol. I did a talk last year. I'm happy to be back, just introducing the concept around NFT lending and what's now kind of being referred to as NFT finance. Do another talk this year, really just a kind of general kind of update on where the space has gone, where it's evolved into. Quick show of hands, like who? I assume everyone owns an NFT, right? Put them up. Okay. Has anyone used an NFT finance protocol, borrowed, lent? A few hands. Okay. Less people, but that's kind of makes sense. Cool. Yeah. Quick disclaimer: I'm not a financial analyst or advisor in any capacity. Degen on your own, volition. Quick, yeah, what are we going to kind of talk about? Quick introduction on what this space is about, the type of categories that have sort of emerged in the last few months, really last 12 to 18 months. Kind of what the volume, some mostly like statistics, like what we're kind of seeing in the marketplace, the different categories that we're seeing across from people building in the space, some, yeah, as I mentioned, kind of market statistics, user demographics. I think it's like really interesting, like who's using this and why, and just kind of some general thoughts around like where the space is going. Yeah, as I mentioned, Arcade is a older NFT lending protocol. I think by TVL we're maybe like 5 or 6 in terms of like for NFT lending as a product category. We generally see like larger loans and lower defaults, but lower in terms of like total number of loans. I'm based out of the US in Miami, Florida. Here's a couple NFTs I own. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. So what is NFT finance, just as like a recap? Basically, prior to this year, I think it really just encapsulated mostly NFT lending. Being able to use an NFT as collateral in a DeFi way to like borrow against, so get liquidity against your Squiggle, Bored Ape, CryptoPunk, etc. But now, it's into 2023, we've seen like kind of a huge explosion of a lot of different types of products out there, AMMs, aggregators, etc., etc. I'll kind of touch on some of those. But yeah, prior to 2023, it was really like 2 different types of lending. Peer-to-peer, one which is like NiftyFi, Arcade, which are basically just you have 2 counterparties, really simple loan. You have one or more assets that you can borrow against, with just a borrower and a lender. And then peer-to-pool, which kind of looks more like an Aave or compound-like product where you deposit an asset in and then have, they use an oracle, so you can borrow up against usually like a floor value. There's not a ton of appraisals yet on the peer-to-pool products, but it's a pool liquidity effectively. So this is from Dune. You can kind of see over the last year, this is sort of why I say in the last few months, we've really kind of ramped up what NFT finances look like, especially as people starting to talk about it as the NFT finance, the summer of NFT finance. It's also kind of a long-winded name. I think we got to find a better one than NFT finance, but it is kind of what it is for now. In total volume, and I'll kind of touch on why I don't necessarily think this is the best metric to kind of capture the growth of the space, but the total loan volume right now has reached about this is from last week, so maybe it's a little dated, but probably about $2.5 billion in total loans that have been conducted using NFT finance, primarily lending protocols, right? So that's, simple borrowing, like borrow against a thing you already own, or buy now, pay later, which again, I'll kind of touch on in a little bit. But yeah, as I mentioned, the space has grown to include derivatives, AMMs, pooled stuff, aggregation, tranche liquidity, kind of bond-like structures, and also some of the bigger marketplaces like in particular Blur, as well as X2Y2, have introduced lending products in their own right. So yeah, kind of on the different products out there. I kind of put a list here of the 4 bigger categories, the ones I'm particularly interested in right now, and kind of talk a little bit about what have found adoption, and as we're growing and it's still very new, what I think it'll take to kind of get some of these other ones up and going and having real usage. So in the first piece, the lending side, it's really simple. People have hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of these JPEGs. That was like the original use case for like NiftyFi and Arcade, was like, okay, I have $1 million worth of Bored Apes. This is just sitting here. I don't want to necessarily sell them. I want to get liquidity against them. what do I do? And there really wasn't too much infrastructure yet to be able to do this. You could maybe go to like a centralized lender, like a Genesis or someone like that, who would accept your collateral and like an actual put together like a term sheet for a loan. That's not very DeFi. That's like slow, painful. I mean, people have done it. It's not a great process, right? So that's where some of the early peer-to-peer protocols have come in, and then peer-to-pool, which I think has really only accelerated, at least on the blue chip kind of collections, the Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, CryptoPunks, et cetera, the primo profile picture projects, PFPs. They've found really good adoption. Like I said, we're in the billions now in total loan volume. On the second side, or the next bullet rather, on the derivative side, we're starting to see people building out derivatives products, options, perpetuals. These have found some amount of adoption. They're super new. I think there's a lot of room to like improve, and a lot of them are like in beta right now. I think part of the problem, and I just kind of provide a little like general like market commentary around kind of where this space goes, is that we have an upper limit in the terms of the total like collateral and assets to actually buy. People don't really want to take out options against PFPs that are only worth 0.2 Ethereum, right? There's not enough liquidity for that on the non-fungible side of things. So we need to have more assets out there, and then I think you can have more actual interesting derivatives underneath it. On the aggregator side, yeah, there's a bunch of aggregators now. Goblin Sachs, Spice, MetaStreet, Snow Genesis. There's a bunch of these different products out there that have tried to make it easier for people to take out loans and provide liquidity for lending. Right now, to do an NFT loan, you really have to have some level of understanding of the underlying collateral, of what a good LTV looks like, what a good APR looks like. You actually have to be somewhat sophisticated. It's not particularly all that it's not as easy as just simply like on Aave throw in some USDC and then borrow. Like you kind of know that maybe a Chromie squiggle will stay relatively solid in value, but it's slightly more volatile. So, and especially on the peer-to-peer side, where you're not leveraging an Oracle service to kind of maintain a healthy borrower threshold. On the peer-to-peer side, you are effectively you're setting your own market terms. So you really do have to kind of know what you're doing, and that's where the aggregators have introduced an opportunity where they can make it easier for people and kind of provide a little bit more hand-holding throughout the process, as well as bringing together all the different, these different platforms out there. Just on the NFT lending side, there's like 30 some odd protocols now. They have different amounts of TVL, different amounts of usage, different amounts of type of users, the collateral that they're seeing, but there's a ton of them. So I think aggregators have a great opportunity to kind of bring a lot of that together, because it's really not feasible for everyone to go to 30 different protocols to go find non-fungible assets effectively. And then on the latter side there, kind of around like buy now, pay later, fractional investing, rental, appraisal, oracles, things like that. I think these products, aside from Blur's buy now, pay later, have found a level of adoption. I think they're still trying to find some product market fit. Blur's product in particular has been really popular, whether it's for people actually wanting to do buy now, pay later in assets, or they're trying to farm the reward system they have going. I think we'll have to kind of see when that that farming program ends. But they're still working. I think a lot on the appraisal oracle side. There's a lot of opportunity for some cool stuff that's really needed when you start dealing with more esoteric assets as well. Some market statistic stuff. Kind of as I was mentioning, on the collateral side, it's really all dominated by Yuga assets, primarily Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, Mutant Apes, even the dogs. They really have captured the majority of lending activity. These numbers though are super skewed. This is from Dune. It's from a pretty popular NFT finance dashboard. I think it's the MetaStreet one. But a lot of this data, is coming from the buy now, pay later products as well, which is not it is a loan, but it's not a loan against something that's fully collateralized. You don't actually really own it yet. So there's a lot of back and forth, around I don't want to say wash trading, but there's a lot of moving hands in these loans. As I kind of mentioned on the TVL side, this is sort of what the TVL looks like. Nothing super crazy to talk about there. Paris Base and Bend, both have the largest TVL, and they're both peer-to-pool products. They're able to, put a lot of USDC DAI, fungible assets into their protocol to earn yield on. As I kind of mentioned, you can sort of see in the last just few months, once Blur introduced their lending product, which is primarily being used as this buy now, pay later product, really the volume really exploded upwards. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's not necessarily fair to say that the total NFT finance lending volume has really reached 2.5 billion, kind of up for discussion there. Who's kind of using these products? There's about 8,600, 8,700 unique users right now, all time for NFT lending. That's compared to just last month, there was about 18,000 unique NFT traders. So there's a huge opportunity to still go and reach, and that's in like this, kind of somewhat bear market, and people aren't, buying NFTs like they used to. So there's still a huge opportunity to go and reach some of these different users out there. But one thing that's interesting is that users are super sticky. If you look kind of where these different these bar charts here are, the users that are on one protocol are kind of sticking to those one protocols. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think you kind of can see, like on the Blur side of things, their product really is like very much kind of closer to an option because the APRs are so low. In general, they have like the vast majority of these really low APR loans that are really short too. So it kind of looks a little bit closer to an option, but they've gained a ton of users. They've basically eclipsed every other product in the space in a super short amount of time. So these rewards programs are super valuable and for gaining traction. And yeah, just to kind of wrap things up, kind of what's next for NFT finance. I think as I mentioned, these products out there outside of the lending space are still gaining traction, still finding users, still finding ways to find product market fit. I think we're missing more assets, as you can kind of see in Arcadium's kind of our view in particular. We've been starting to adopt and embrace a lot of real-world assets, in particular tokenized real-world assets like watches. Someone recently took a tokenized FTX credit claim and took a loan out against it for 7 days, apparently. I don't know who the counterparties were, but they did it for $7,500 loan. I think, as I mentioned, the aggregation has a huge opportunity to reach across all these different protocols. There's so many of them now. I think there's some fun, mint mechanic stuff that can come about, leveraging buy now, pay later, and things like that. And yeah, there's I think there's a number of talks about people doing L2 support for NFTs, building more NFTs on L2s. And most of the protocols out there right now are all on mainnet. Maybe a few are on like Arbitrum or Polygon, but the majority of them are all on mainnets. And that's primarily because there's not a lot of collateral for NFTs to be borrowed against on any L2, right? It's mostly all L1 stuff. So that's where all the protocols are as well. And then, yeah, finally, just kind of, I think DAOs will have a greater influence on protocols. Most of the protocol stuff out there right now is like very sort of centralized in decision making. I think DAOs in the next couple months, as a lot of protocols are starting to decentralize, issue tokens, stand up their formal governance frameworks. A lot of these DAOs you'll actually have more community involvement within the protocol. So yeah, that's kind of hopefully a decent overview of where we were last year and where we're up into today. And yeah, hope everyone has a great conference. Thanks.